Yes, I hate to bother anyone. Well, I hate to bother. Gotta have another. Yes, I hate to bother anyone. If anybody asks you, I'm not here. If anybody needs me, I don't care. But if you really want me, you know that I'm with my kind. If anybody needs me, I'm not here. If anybody wants me, I'm not there. But if you really need me, you know that I'm with my kind. With my kind.
Welcome, everybody, to another edition of the Rockpile Report podcast. I'm your host, Bill, season ticket holder Drew Gear. That's my producer, Chris Kruger. Chris, what a time to be alive. What a time to be alive. The Buffalo Bills are 4-0, and we are sitting here fueled with excitement and outrage. In fact, I could write a book called Excitement and Outrage, the 2025 Buffalo Bills Story. Doesn't that seem to sum up the tenor of our fan base this week?
I feel like your thoughts on the game, like, hey, we got 31 points. I don't know if I would have done it like that. That's your opinion on. You were mad Sunday. I mean,
Of course I was.
yeah, I mean, but broad picture, we got 31 points, but it seems like you don't like how we got to 31.
Nobody does. And this is the problem. Okay, there's a problem with both approaches. If you're someone who's so busy looking at the trees that you can't see the forest, then yes, you're going to have a bad time, but that's almost with anything in life. Also, the problem is you have to find the sweet spot, right? Because if you're so busy looking at the forest for the trees, generally speaking, that's a bad thing. In fact, Bills offensive coordinator Joe Brady said as much in his Monday morning press conference when he met the media. He goes, look, because they said, hey, how cool is it that you guys have been scoring over 30 for another straight week? And Brady said, we can't get caught up in that. We as an offense don't take pride. He's like, obviously we take pride in the wins. But but also you could have a bad game and say, okay, there was good things we did in there and you can take pride in that. He said, the fact that you're scoring 30 points, he goes, you can't just lose a football game and look at everything you did and said, well, it wasn't good enough. And then look at a game you won where you scored 30 and say, see, guys, everything we're doing is great. We need to just move on. He called them smoke detectors. And I thought that was interesting. He goes, those are your smoke detectors. Every week when you show up to a football game and you score 30 points, but you still make mistakes, if you don't analyze those mistakes and you don't pore over them and try to correct them, and you just shrug like some fans want to and say, well, we're scoring 30, what does it matter? I think that it was really refreshing to hear him say that, and it helps kind of frame what tonight's discussion is, because I feel like there's a lot wrapped up this week for Bills fans in the sense of our coaches, our players, where we are as a football team, even though we are only one of two undefeated teams left in the NFL. How did we ever get to this place, Chris? I remember being out in the mud lot at 7 o'clock in the morning, already drunk with a Wegmans sub tray, watching the Rex Ryan Buffalo, watching Kyle Orton suit up at quarterback for the Buffalo Bills going, hey guys, maybe this week we won't get embarrassed. And somehow I found myself in this place.
Those are the good old days.
Yeah, it's like now we're leaving football games where the team is scoring ad nauseum. They're winning football games because of their offense, and we're still angry. Isn't that just the most fitting thing of all time?
Yeah.
It really is. Wegmans, what a name drop. Oh, I've got name drops. Ryan Rhodes, don't make me deglaze up in here. Okay, it's incredible, Chris. You got to pick a whiskey off the back wall for me. Just going through the comments.
Why don't you get up and get one of the Knob Creek picks on the top shelf?
All right.
It's either the one on the left or the one on the far right.
Chris, I see something in the chat here, and I do have a comment to make. You know, Bobby Babich has seemingly been asked since you stopped doing the chain bit. Why don't you address that?
Well, it's my fault. Our defense is bad because I'm not wearing gold chains. Either one on the end, left or right. Left end or right end, either one. Yeah. It's or you're gonna take the rye. It's odd that I'm at fault for Bobby Babich's failures so far this year because I'm not wearing gold chains. It's a one season bit. You gotta retire it. You can't bring it back for 2. It would be ridiculous.
Chris, you say that as if this isn't the Rockpile Report. You say this is so what? Some kind of serious institution as a pot? Guys, that would be ridiculous. And I am not a man who can afford to be made to look ridiculous. This is the Rockpile Report, people. That's all we do. Ridiculous, absurdity,
Wolfgang
and
G, defense has more holes than Drew's smile.
Early front runner for comment of the night.
He is Canadian. He spelled it with a C.
Guys, I love this. It's time. I'm happy I've been waiting all day, itching to get here behind the microphone. Let's jump into the game recap because I got a lot to discuss with you. Week 4, Buffalo Bills 31, the Saints 19. Here's your stats of the game. If I look at this, I got to pull this up because I unfortunately got stuck in meetings for most of the day. And I want to look at the passing stats. But one of the things that I do know is that Spencer Rattler, Chris, did you expect that day from him?
I mean, I just put it in the chat. There wasn't going to be a repeat performance of the Seahawks game for the Saints. You don't, even being as bad as we expect the Saints to be, you don't repeat those performances 2 weeks in a row unless you're the Cincinnati Bengals. Wolfgang's actually Aussie. Somebody from Australia.
Nice.
Is what?
Top of the evening to you, sir.
Is it evening? Well, I don't even know what time. Is it the Mesozoic era over there?
Is it the Mesozoic? I'm shocked you know that word.
Know.
Oh, Spencer Rattler, 18 of 27 for 126, 1 touchdown, 3 sacks, 49 rushing yards. Outrushed Josh Allen in this game. Okay. And then was actually Chris, 1 target in the passing game for Spencer Rattler. Josh Allen, 16 of 22, 209, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick, 3 sacks, just like Spencer Rattler. 113 passer rating, 7 rushes for 45 yards and a touchdown. And the 27-yard run that I think kind of put the staple in the game for the Buffalo Bills. Running back James Cook, 22 rushes, 117 yards and 1 touchdown. Did you know, Chris, that only 12 of those 117 yards was considered overexpected by NFL Next Gen Stats?
I didn't know that.
That means we're going to talk about what that means here in a few minutes. Running back Alvin Kamara. Okay, Alvin Kamara. Chris, how old do you think he is? Just off the top of your head, how old do you think Alvin Kamara is?
33.
Alvin Kamara was born, let's see, 1995. He is 30 years old. Alvin Kamara, 70 yards rushing on 15 attempts, but on those 70 yards, 3 rushes of 10 or more yards. 0 heavy boxes. 0 heavy boxes did the Bills ever throw at the Saints, which tells you what their game plan was. Chris, if I told you for missed tackles, it felt like the Bills were on the higher end of that?
Yes.
Saints had 14 missed tackles in the game. The Bills had 12. The Bills' right side of the offensive line felt like Ryan Vandermark did a bad job, right? They allowed 6 pressures, 2 sacks, and 4 quarterback hurries. Quarterback Christian Benford had 17 yards allowed in coverage per PFF. And we're going to talk about these things. But I've got a couple numbers, Chris, notable numbers. First of all, 165. What do you think that number is?
Spencer Rattler passing yardage.
It's the number of New Orleans yards that came after contact. That's 88% of all of their rushing yards. All of their yardage came after someone touched them, which is chaos. 6 You know what the number 6 is?
One more than a nickel.
It's actually the number of first downs James Cook had, which led the Buffalo Bills as a team. And the number 29. It's about the number of nickels I think are in my glove box right now. I want you to put up the graphic, and I want you to... Guys, I'm going to start this podcast like a Quentin Tarantino film. I get home, and we're kind of celebrating the victory, the fact the Bills won, but I'm pissed about the way it happened and everything else that went on. And I'm stripping down the truck. I'm getting everything packed away. Chris has already left for the day, and I open up my glove box, and I hear a jingling sound, and I go, what the hell is that? And I pull out the drawer, and this is what I see. Just a pile of nickels staring me in the face. Chris, explain yourself.
So we have to start with, for those that don't know, when Drew got married, my wedding gift to Drew, I gave him $100 in nickels. So this was a dead giveaway that this was me, that I put these nickels in his truck, which is 100% true. 1 year ago, we played the Jacksonville Jaguars on Monday Night Football. I was texting with my friend Adam, who you met on Sunday at the game, and I bet him $5 that Jacksonville was going to have a defensive touchdown, and I lost. And I mailed him $5 in nickels, and he brought them back, and then I emptied them in your truck when we were dismantling the tailgate. So that is how you have nickels in your truck.
Oh, my God. You are one of the dumbest people I know, but I love you. Guys, know that if you ever make a bet with Chris Krueger, he's going to pay you in change.
I sent that picture to Adam, and I was like, Drew wants to know why there's a bunch of nickels in his truck. And he's like, well, what'd you tell him? I go, oh, you got to know, I gave him $100 in nickels for his wedding. So he immediately knew it was me. I cut that bag open you brought back and just dumped it in his truck.
Guys, with friends like Chris, who needs enemies, right? Who needs enemies? Ryan Rhodes, 165 total IQ in the studio. Now that's a good one. See, our listeners are our brand. They're just petty and mean and quick with it. I love it. The way the defense has been playing, Chris needs to switch to ankle bracelets. Chris has no idea what that reference is.
Home arrest?
No, not quite. I want to talk about this. If we want to start with the game, before I talk about the coaching points, I found a nickname after our sauce conversation last week when it came to the tight end room, and I'm just going to refer to them as the secret sauce because they really, really are when you think about what the Buffalo Bills offense is. Chris, can you think of any wide receiver who got any consistent separation this week?
No.
Can you think about anybody who really made themselves overwhelmingly available to Josh Allen this week?
I mean, on that, what is it? A wheel route to Kincaid for that touchdown that you didn't get to see because you were walking on Abbott, which I passed you shirtless on the way back to the truck.
So when you think about this, okay, there was nobody who really stands out to you as someone who, hey, had an overwhelming performance, right? Keon Coleman had 4 targets. Do you know that none of our players except for Khalil Shakir actually got enough targets in the passing game at wide receiver to qualify for next gen stats tracking, except for Khalil Shakir? And do you know where he ranked in terms of average separation?
I have no idea.
60 out of 66 players. Okay. I have the note here. Out of 66 players, Khalil Shakir ranked 39th in the NFL this week. Our wide receiver core could do nothing to get separation, natural separation from this group on a consistent basis. So how the hell do you roll up 31 points on an opposing team? It's almost like by doing, there we go, local evening news. The tight end room is the greasy spoon that everybody eats. Yes. This is what happens to you as an NFL defense, and it might be the secret superpower of the 2025 Buffalo Bills. It's that when you take away our deep passing ability, you say, you're not getting over the top. We're going to play two high safeties. We're not going to let you get up the seam. We're not going to let you throw deep on us. You feed directly into what it is we do as an offense and where we're actually the strongest, right? When you force us to play small ball against you, it's actually to your own detriment, because the only reason we're doing this is because you've taken away the deep half of the field. You're probably playing, three deep safeties, deep quarters coverage with tighter man on the outside, or at least zone defense by really good outside boundary corners. Great. Wonderful. That doesn't do shit for you if our passing game flows through Khalil Shakir and James Cook. Now what do you do? Smart ass? That's my question to every defensive coordinator who lines up against the Buffalo Bills. Not an explosive attack this week, but Chris, if I told you that Josh finished at the fifth highest intended air yards of the week at 9.6 yards, it would show you that it's not that they're not trying to take shots downfield. It's just not landing, right?
Yeah.
That's how Josh ended up throwing that interception. He tries to get Coleman going down the sideline in a spot where he thought he had him, and he just floated the ball a little bit. We can somehow rack up 30 points without having those chunk yardage passing plays that you watch all of these other offenses around the NFL have. I almost think that that's more intimidating, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like this week, we were 1 for 5 on throws of 20 or more air yards with 1 pick and no touchdowns. And we beat the hell out of them on the scoreboard. 31 points, 31 points. It's because James Cook in the tight end room came to the rescue again. When you think about retaining James Cook, and I'll come back to this idea, I just want your lightning round style. How important does his contract feel now compared to where you thought it did at the beginning of the training camp?
Oh, it's very important. Steve in the comments wanted to know if James Cook is on that same injury to Josh Allen level, like where we're fucked. We're fucked with an injury to Josh Allen if that happens. I feel like if James Cook were to get injured, we would be fucked. Because I definitely don't trust Ray Davis to run the ball.
I mean, you can say that, but ultimately, I think you've seen that this team comes together when James Cook hasn't been available, and luckily he has been, and we can get away with that for now. But in a game where it's like, okay, your passing attack down the field, it's not going to materialize for you today. They're taking it away. That's fine. We'll come out here. So you have a talent like James Cook, who, despite seeing a multitude of heavy boxes, was able to put together some really nice statistical things. Like when I look at rushing, like here's the thing, rushing efficiency, Next Gen Stats has James Cook in the bottom 8 of the NFL, up there with Breece Hall, Omarion Hampton, who had a nightmare week. It happens, right? But one of the things that I really like is the idea that he's up in the top 15 every week for time behind the line of scrimmage, which means he's getting the ball and he's not thinking, he's cutting. He's cutting and he's running up the field. And like I said, rushing yards over expected is the number 12 for James Cook. Do you know what that underscores? His blocking is so good in front of him that when he gets tackled, it's probably right around where he should get tackled. But it's devastating. It's 100-yard game after 100-yard game. It's touchdown after touchdown. What? Now his 8th straight game with a touchdown, Chris?
Yes. Bill's record?
This is two different groups of talent playing with synergy. Your blockers and your running back. The two of them are working in perfect synergy. You've got your offensive line who, say what you want about Ryan Vandermark. I saw everybody, myself included, who were taking the piss out of him this week. Ryan Vandermark's terrible. Blah, blah, blah. Well, it's exacerbated when you screw up a 4th down conversion and you're really not good in pass protection. And in fact, I'm willing to bet that a lot of what people were watching, and even some of the analytical stuff from PFF, where they go, oh man, Osiris Torrance had a bad game. In the truck on the way back, we were live on Twitter, and I said, I can't wait to go back and watch this game with sober, unemotional eyes. And in doing so, I noticed that some of this PFF stuff that we like to point to and we go, this guy's great. Look at how he graded. This guy must have done terrible. He graded poorly. Ryan Vandermark, they really kind of take the piss out of him, and we do as fans if you're watching the game. And then you take a look at the run blocking and you go, oh, this Brad Thorne, one of my favorite follows in terms of offensive line scouting at the NFL and college level. Go follow him on Twitter. He had a great breakdown of Ryan Vandermark's day, and he was like, yeah, it was a forgettable day in pass protection, but this guy is a machine in run blocking. So on a week when you lose Spencer Brown, who one of his best attributes, besides the fact that he's a nasty son of a bitch, is that he gives you this incredible run blocking. Ryan Vandermark plugs right in, and your rushing attack does not miss a beat. Why? Because they're road graders over there on the right side of the line, even without your highly paid right tackle. Like, I think that there's this thing that happens where we see some metrics and we see something that PFF points out, or we see a rating. Oh, this is the PFF rating. And you get obsessed with that figure. You know, I saw someone, another podcast, who the host may look like the Lorax that I'm not going to name.
Anne Frank?
No. We've actually made fun of him before on this show because we're dicks. The Air Raid Hour guys who tweeted out something about Dorian Williams and said, hey, look at Shaq Thompson's PFF rating. We need this guy on the field more so than Dorian Williams. And then their own cover one guy, Eric Williams, chimes in and goes, Eric Turner goes, hey, you do know that Shaq Thompson only played 6 snaps. It's not like he was out there for a ton of the game and was so much better than Dorian Williams. Dorian Williams just had more time to show his ass. That's the difference. Show his ass he did. But the reality is the offensive line and the blocking for James Cook, they're working in perfect synergy to produce these, just basically pace our offense at this point. Dalton Kincaid. How are you not impressed by this guy? Joe Brady, talking yesterday in his press conference, openly spoke about Kincaid and how he goes, because they were like, oh, are you surprised by this breakout? He goes, well, it's not really a breakout. We've known he's talented. He's been dealing with injuries. He was a rookie. You watched him. He by his account, this is the Dalton Kincaid they expected him to be at this point in his career.
How would you know? You left the stadium.
No, I'm talking about in total, because I watched the game and then I watched the film, Chris. Unlike someone who shows up here and presses buttons and sits there with bad hair behind a microphone.
I told you in the stadium after the Saints kicked that field goal.
Oh, I knew we were going to win.
You said, I'm going to go pee and then I'm going to go to the truck. And I said, I will be at the truck after we go up 2 scores here.
And I was in the bathroom and I heard it on the radio. I was like, that's awesome.
And then I ran past you down Abbott shirtless like a boss.
So, first of all, you shirtless in public with that hair, you're never a boss. Don't ever say that again. One of the things that fuels this is a Dalton Kincaid who has genuinely come into his own and is able to pace this team as one of our premier playmakers, and also is a phenom in the perimeter run blocking game. He and Jackson Hawes together. This is a team now where I think half the reason Dawson Knox is still around is simply because they didn't know who was going to fill his shoes in terms of who's going to catch utility passes from Allen, who's going to act as a safety valve, and who's going to go out there and play rundowns. I think you have your answer. Even if they don't pay Dalton Kincaid, even if he leaves after next year, maybe they play him on his 5th-year option and he walks. Jackson Hawes is already giving you a little bit more in terms of run blocking than Dawson Knox ever has. And that's saying something because Dawson Knox has been fairly reliable in that regard. And I guarantee you, Chris, the second that they start to trust him more as a receiver, the more Allen starts to trust him as a receiver, whether it's through practice, whether it's just through, maybe it takes a full season. I don't know what role is left for Dawson Knox. That's how high I am on Jackson Hawes right now.
This is Dawson Knox last season.
Yeah. This is it. I don't see how he's still a Buffalo Bill after this.
He was only here for this year because the dead cap didn't work out in the Bills' favor, but they will cut him after this season. That's for sure.
Yeah, people are pointing out he had a chance to make a huge play. He also was playing on a bum knee through a lot of injuries that none of us knew about because he's tough, which is what it takes to be an NFL football player. Steve Noble, Jackson Hawes may have had the best separation rate of all of our receivers. He is a weapon. Jackson Hawes is just fun. Like, he's just fun to watch play the game of football. You know why? Because I like ugly. I like the Osiris Torrance, right? Because he's ugly. He goes in there and he muddies up the water and he tosses guys around. Spencer Brown, he goes out there and he's just a scumbag. He's blocking guys well after the whistle. He's hitting guys after the play. He's playing offensive line the way it's supposed to be played. Alec Anderson gave you shades of that and still does. The reason Alec Anderson isn't seeing more burn is because Jackson Hawes is giving you all that big, nasty, and ugly that all of these guys give you, except he also brings pass catching acumen and at least the threat of it, so that opposing defensive coordinators have to pay attention to it. It's because of it. Like, think about the Terrell Shavers and Dalton Kincaid out there on the perimeter blocking for Shakir on his touchdown catch. This offense is literally being paced by the fact that we have a tight end.
I think
room
that
full of
Shakir
weapons.
touchdown, it was more of Shakir reversing a German suplex tackle on his way to the end zone.
It was a hell of a thing to watch in real time. It was a pop-up, the kind of pass you throw to a 6-year-old. Somebody in the comments is real mad about the AFC Championship game, which luckily I've drank enough I've already mostly forgotten about.
Local Evening News says Anne Frank needs a signature ballpoint pen.
So that brings us to a conversation I want to have about the coaching staff, right? And just something that I've, in the aftermath of the game, I tweeted something and it caught an awful lot of eyeballs. It kind of took off on Twitter. Chris, if you want to throw that up there on the screen for people. For those of you listening on the audio version, let me find it here for you. I said, here's a hot take. Now, I tweeted this at 3:26 p.m. Here's a hot take. The Bills might just have the worst coaching staff in its totality in the AFC East. Now, in retrospect to this weekend, that's stupidity. If I had opened it up to the NFL, maybe I've got a point. They survive on talent and rarely elevate the players. It's hilarious that it's been laid so plain in this game. Now, that was me being angry at a football game. And for those of you who think that that's the end of it, just ask the people who were sitting directly in front of me during the game when at one point I made the children laugh and the adults got mad at me because I yelled, "The only way to fix this, it's obvious, guys. Guys, I've got the solution. Have you ever seen Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom? We have to sacrifice Bobby Babbage at the 50-yard line during halftime." And the adults in the room did not appreciate that. Something about the visual of a guy pulling out a heart and it starting on fire. Apparently, that's too much for some people out there. But it got me thinking about just this idea that I think sometimes, especially when I'm watching the Bills struggle, why I think so little of the coaches of a 4-0 football team right now. Instead of drinking the Kool-Aid, I think my position's defensible, but I want to talk about it. I want to get it out. I like doing it in a live format because I get live feedback. I want to go through the coaching staff and talk about who's actually pulling their weight in terms of elevating the players. I want to start with Chris Tabor. I actually think he's doing a great job. I do. No one really made a big deal out of it last week, but one of the fun things that I walked away from this game with was that the Dolphins almost broke the first kick return we gave them an opportunity for. They almost broke it to the house. And then Chris Tabor immediately huddled up his special teams group and was like, all right, guys, we saw what they're going to hit us with. Now what we're going to move to is an approach called the waterfall style approach, where we're not going to try to smother them anymore. All we're going to do is try to contain it, and we're going to flow in levels to the ball. And all it did was ensure layers to the coverage, added integrity to it, put an end to all of their big returns. On-the-fly changes in real time using communication on the fly with your players and a schematic understanding of the game. That's it. That's what I expect from a position coordinator, right? Not just, well, I came in here with something on paper and it didn't work, and I don't have anything else. I want pivots in real time because I'm a fan. And I think that that's what it takes to win in the NFL on a consistent basis. So then you go to offensive coordinator Joe Brady. And you can say what you want to about Joe Brady, and you can say that, I don't know, I just picture Allen sprinting angrily off the field after that fourth down trick play. Chris, when it's 4th and 1, 4th and 2, we're the Buffalo Bills. Why are we calling trick plays?
I don't know. Dumb idea.
Does anybody have any explanation for that? Knowing how good your offensive line is, knowing how impactful your tight end room is, why are the Buffalo Bills calling trick plays on 4th and 1? That seems like a misuse. It seems like you're not using your assets properly. Because if you had a Josh Allen, wouldn't you just let Josh Allen go get you the first down?
2 yards is far.
Is it?
Not to Josh Allen.
Is it? Like, I get mad about the Joe Brady stuff, right? Like, people are furious because then you watch later in the same game, we get in the red zone, and they build in a play-action bootleg where now Josh has options. He can put the defense in conflict with his legs, and that pump fake, now a linebacker has to make a decision. Do I try to brace for a pass and try to figure out who he's pump faking to? But if I'm flat-footed, Josh Allen's going to run me right over. So I have to pick my poison. And if I'm wrong, Chris, it's the perfect scenario for how a quarterback like Josh Allen can consistently win in short yardage situations. Where was that play on 4th and 2? Why did you not trust, as Joe Brady, the game to your quarterback, who you pay all this money, who's the reigning MVP, who you know puts defenders in one-on-one conflict at a rate that very few quarterbacks can in the NFL? Why are you, as the offensive coordinator, overthinking this still? It's not like you're new. It's not like you haven't spent a couple seasons with this guy to really be able to feel him out, feel out what the flow of the game is and how important this moment is. I look at that and I really, I feel like Ruth from Ozark, where I'm over here going, I don't know S about F. I don't know anymore. But here we are scoring 31 points with that same approach, that same guy at the helm. Does it feel like he's still trying to figure out how to run this thing? To you, Chris? Like, guys in the chat, does it feel like Joe Brady is still feeling out what this year's roster is? I ask because here's what I know. If your wide receivers can't get open, then you need to be making sure that the play design and execution manufactures separation among your wide receivers. Through 4 weeks, the Bills wide receivers rank in the middle to bottom of the pack in terms of average separation. It's bad. It's terrible if you look at the fact that some teams have more than a third of their entire wide receiver core higher than the Bills' highest ranked player in terms of separation metrics. And then you take a look at what other teams get to deal with. Andy Reid has been doing this for years. Chris, the Chiefs have beaten the Bills with wide receiver cores that you would call less talented than what we had, correct?
Yeah.
What are you laughing about? Talk about it. Stop chuckling. Be a good co-host and talk about the chat.
You want me to read what Local Evening News wrote?
Yes, sir.
Josh Allen has I married a black girl energy.
Talking about Matt McCusker?
Yes.
Okay. I'll tell you what. I look at this and I look at Andy Reid, who's been doing this for his teams for years, but he's the best, right? Like, it's impossible to put anyone up against Andy Reid. Okay. How about Todd Monken in Baltimore? Nate Geary from WGR 550 came on this podcast over the summer and called the wide receiver depth chart of the Ravens one of the worst in the entire NFL. Yet it's arguably kind of the same as what they went into last year with. And last year, Lamar Jackson got to spend most of the 2024 season throwing to the most open receivers statistically in the NFL. And while everybody points and goes, well, it's the Derrick Henry effect, James Cook has been better than Derrick Henry this year. Josh Allen has been just as effective, if not more, than Lamar Jackson at running the football. I don't think you can use that as an excuse. This is a poor job scheming your wide receivers open. The reigning NFL MVP doesn't have more than 205 yards passing in a game this year, except for the one time he beat it in a single quarter of football. Ironically, when they needed 20 points to come back and win. Is that what we have to do, Chris? Do we have to be losing by 20 points in order for Joe Brady to just open up the playbook and go, oh, okay, I know how to play call and scheme guys into open areas of the field? Or is it that he lulls the opponent into a false sense of security and they play prevent and we're like, all right, now jump him?
That the latter seems to be the case so far.
I mean, I guess this is how you find yourself to a place where you're saying, okay, I could either try to manufacture this thing that I can't do as a coordinator right now, or I can just bludgeon you to death with a couple things that I know work. My offensive line, this shockingly good tight end room, and a star running back who's now being paid like he's one of the best in the game, and he's showing it on the football field. I look at the job that Joe Brady's doing, and I think to myself, this is a team that's tent-poled by talent. This is not a team that's overflowing with all pros, Chris. You know, that was one of the biggest arguments if you participate in such a thing, all the people who get together on social media and argue about Lamar Jackson versus Josh Allen. Okay? This is not a team that's overflowing with all pros or even pro bowlers. And yet we are dominant in terms of how we perform in football games and how we win them. But that's because we're tent-poled by an MVP quarterback, an aged star defensive end, a former all-pro linebacker, a Pro Bowl caliber cornerback, a reliable offensive line, and a star running back. Like, we're good. We're not elite in any one of these areas, but we don't need to be because some of them are so good, they tentpole everything else. The rest of those areas need the support of your coaching staff. They need the Chris Tabor treatment in order for them to come together and yield a football team, whether you're organizing, whether you're educating, whether it's film study, whether it's just pure motivation, whether it's figuring out the guys. Like, what's his face, Chris? Herb Brooks? When he just bag skated everybody constantly?
Yeah.
Herb Brooks and the U.S. men's national team, when he goes, listen, I know you're not as talented as the Russians, but I will bag skate you to death so that you're tougher than them when it comes down to brass tacks. Maybe that's what they need. But there needs to be some assistance from the staff, and right now I'm not seeing it. And then you get to defensive coordinator Bobby Babich, and this opened up a whole can of worms for me, okay? Like, I don't know what to say about this. You know, you watch the performance. It's a lot's been made about it already. But I think about some of the decisions that are going on in conjunction with the talent on the field, and this is where I start to get frustrated with Babich. It's not the numbers on their own, which, like, Chris, the numbers on their own are not good. Like where is it here? I've got the here we go. Where's this? Oh, no. I lost it. Okay, so Anthony Prohaska has a tweet where he basically calls out all of the problems. Here we go. 23rd in EPA per rush. We're 29th in yards before contact per rush, which means we're not getting penetration to the line of scrimmage. We're getting blown off the ball. We're 32nd in yards after contact. We are the last team in the NFL in yards after contact allowed per rushing attempt. 32nd in runs allowed of 10 or more yards with 26 through 4 weeks. 26 over 4 weeks. Chris, what's the math on that? 26 divided by 4. That's 7 times per game the opposing team runs for 10 yards on a clip. 30th in rush yards total. 24th in stuff rate, which means we don't stuff the line of scrimmage nearly well enough. This is a bunch of small defensive tackles getting beat up at the line of scrimmage. It's like all of these ugly statistics. And so you look at the coordinator and you go, Babich, what the hell, brother? What are you doing to me? And this is where I look at some of what happened and I rewatch the game and I say to myself, okay, 2 of Spencer Rattler's first down rushes are directly related to the decision to play man coverage. And the linebackers just forgetting where they are. You know, you watch a play. The perfect one is Dorian Williams, where he's the victim of this play. I'll retweet it. So if you follow us at Rockpile Report, it'll be at the top of our feed if you want to go back and watch this. Dorian Williams gets victimized because the cornerbacks are all playing. We're in nickel. The cornerbacks play man. The linebackers have to play a zone in the middle and try to clean that up. And Dorian Williams is flat-footed, and he's got a bad angle. Never sees Spencer Rattler take off. And by the time he does, he's too late. He can't get the proper angle to make a tackle, and it's a first down. That's something Babbage needs to realize about his linebacker and about his linebacker's awareness if he's going to call that play. Meanwhile, Joey Bosa. Joey Bosa's out here playing 70% of the snaps every single week for a team that typically has tried to rotate defensive ends all game long, trying to keep people fresh into the fourth quarter. And this week, Joey Bosa is directly responsible for 3 of the longest runs of the game. All 3 of Alvin Kamara's 10-plus rushes, 10-plus yard rushes, excuse me. Every single one of them, Joey Bosa, if you're the defensive end on that play, your job is to take the outside of the tackle and maintain the pocket. You have to set the edge. And instead, what Bosa does is try to knife around to the inside of the offensive tackle, thinking he can get a tackle for loss. And all Kamara does, because he's a veteran and he's really good, he just bends it farther outside, and Bosa never even comes close to him. And it's in his post-game press conference, Babbage talked about how some of the guys just need to learn to do their job when it's time to do their job. And he goes, I've had conversations with those guys. They understand it. I don't think it'll be a problem. I guarantee you he's talking about Bosa. He even said Bosa came up to him and apologized after the game, as he should. But also that's on you as the coordinator, isn't it? To know that Joey Bosa is playing the game like this. So it's probably a bad idea for me to put him in so many of these situations where he might make poor choices. Because the football player is the football player. They're the weapons, and me as the coach, it's my job to figure out what direction to point him and when to pull the trigger. And again, I see a lot of people who want to stick up for the coaching staff, and they want to say, well, but it's the players and they don't execute, and it's on them, blah, 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 blah. Okay. I look at those two concepts, and I say to myself, maybe Bobby Babbage, we talked about this infusion of talent that he's gotten. Maybe he really does need to better understand the makeup of this group with guys like Oliver and Milano out of the lineup. And considering the history, I wouldn't be shocked to see more of this. We're left to play without Oliver and Milano. But it becomes concerning when you think about it in terms of, let's just talk about history for a second, because I left this game thinking about something, and it took me to a really dark place. I tried to think about the last time the Bills looked this dysfunctional on defense, and I'm scratching my head. I'm like, man, they've been so good during the McDermott era. I don't understand. So, Chris, up here, if you can put this on the screen for those of you who are listening in audio only, go to YouTube and watch this clip, because I can't describe it in detail better than I'm about to do. I've curated 3 different NFL defensive coordinators for the Buffalo Bills and their team ranks at various statistical points, whether it's points allowed, rushing yards allowed, passing touchdowns allowed, or third down percentage allowed to their opponents. Each of these columns represents another defensive coordinator from the Buffalo Bills. The one on the left, for those of you listening at home, 30th and 22nd over a 2-year window. That defensive coordinator allowed our defense to score in terms of points. And in third down percentage, he was 21st and 32nd. In the next column, that defensive coordinator was 1st and 6th. Okay? And then to the right, 30th and 25th. Guys in the chat, can you tell me A, B, or C from left to right, what defensive coordinators do I have up here in front of you? Who are you looking at, guys? I want to see it. What coach am I talking about for each column? Go ahead. Think about it. Give it a minute. Let it breathe. Imagine being
the one in the middle's real good.
Being a defensive...
First in, 4 categories there?
Yep. Being first in the entire NFL for an entire season of football in multiple categories. Points, pass yards, passing touchdowns allowed, third down percentage allowed. Passing yards for the guy in the first column was 19th and 10th. But that's not bad, right? 10th in passing yards allowed? That seems like it's a pretty good job.
Yeah. Okay, it's like slightly average or a tick above average.
So, Time in the comments says that the middle is Spagnuolo. Roy Collins says Leslie Frazier is column 2. There we go. Ding, ding, ding. We got a winner. Roy, DM us at Rockpile Report on Twitter or email me, rockpilereport716@gmail.com, and I'm going to send you some barbecue rub from Q42 Barbecue. The middle column is Leslie Frazier. Anybody want to guess who the other two are? That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Dave Wannstedt and Bobby Babich. The Dave Wannstedt. For those of you who have forgotten, guys, Dave Wannstedt back in 2011 and 2012 was the Buffalo Bills defensive coordinator. And when you look at them statistically, Chris, you put the one back up there with the names on it?
Yeah.
I can't wait. There it is. When you look at these things side by side, it's pretty jarring when you realize that Bobby Babich, through 2 years of being an NFL defensive coordinator, is closer to being, statistically, Dave Wannstedt back in 2011, 2012, than he is to being Leslie Frazier, who was here in 2021, 2022, and who no longer has a job.
He's with the Seahawks.
See, now he's found his way back into a football organization because good coaches get a job whenever they want one. Dave Wannstedt, man. God, throw his ugly face up there just so people can see it. Dave Wannstedt in a Bills jersey was a horror show for us for a while. Like, that's synonymous with one of the most disappointing eras of Bills football. And yet, when you look at it statistically...
Look at that. He's got his finger up on his head. I know defense. You did in the 90s.
It's really frustrating when you see this. And then the worst part is you have to take into account the fact that Dave Wannstedt, at that time when he was here with our football team, was a member of this organization when they had nothing. They had nothing to speak of. They were spending money, but not spending to the cap. They didn't have any stars on defense. They didn't have any stars on offense. They had no star power, period. And they looked, they put up the type of seasons that middling football teams with no star power put up. And didn't he take over for George Edwards? Or did George Edwards take over when Wannstedt got fired? Somebody in the chat, let me know.
I want to fight you because you said George Edwards. I'd never expected to hear that name again the rest of my life. Fuck that guy.
This is what makes me angry. Bobby Babich, right now in this moment, is performing more like Dave Wannstedt than he was like Leslie Frazier, despite the fact that since 2021, when Leslie Frazier took over as DC, or at least was involved with our team, I shouldn't say took over, he was here for a while, 3 first-round picks in 5 years have been invested on the defense. 7 other top 90 picks have been invested over that same time span. They've now given extensions to Ed Oliver, Bernard, Benford. They gave $80 million to Greg Rousseau. They went out and spent $12 million on Joey Bosa. They got Michael Hoyt and Larry Ogunjobi, who, in his defense, have not been able to contribute. But the fact that there have been this many assets tied to the unit that you coordinate, and you're putting up numbers that are kind of aligning with a much maligned and disgraced coach who pretty much washed right out of the NFL after that stint, that does not bode well for you as a coordinator in the NFL. It can't. There's no possible way that any of this can be reasonable or sustainable. And I get really, really frustrated with this because we're a team that considers ourselves a Super Bowl contender. And for people who go, oh, well, these things happen all the time. Yeah, ask Vic Fangio and the Miami Dolphins. Vic Fangio was basically run out of town in Miami because they were running a clown show of an organization. And then he left and went to the Eagles and immediately took them to the Super Bowl where they put on one of the most dominant defensive games anybody's ever seen in a Super Bowl, short of when the Cowboys beat the hell out of the Buffalo Bills. I'm really lucky I wasn't old enough to drink at that point. In fact, Chris, what would have happened to you if you were this age when that happened? If you were this age when the Cowboys beat the Bills the way they did in that first Super Bowl, what would that have been like?
Oh, the amount of times that I would be through AA if I was at drinking age during the Super Bowl era in the 90s, I'd have a couple stints in AA for sure. I'd have to have a coin and rub it for good luck. All that.
I'm reading through some of the comments, and it's just funny because somebody points out, like here, they're like, finally we're focused on the problem and why we're not going to get to a Super Bowl.
Yeah, Kevin, he wants to know Babbage is forced to run McDermott's system.
Well, and here's
I would
what's
say
funny.
Babbage has gold chains. I would expect him to challenge McDermott on something the way a bro like that dresses like Babbage would challenge another bro at Caputi's.
I was going to say,
over a woman.
I've seen it a lot of times over it. And I guess here's where I look at those statistics and I say to myself, okay, one of two things is happening. Either he's wholly unqualified or he just doesn't understand the room right now. Bobby Babbage doesn't understand how to get to these guys. And I look at that. You're talking about a defense that wasted a pair of timeouts, right? On defense in the second half of that Saints game this week. One of them on a 2-point conversion attempt. Who calls a timeout defensively for a 2-point conversion? You mean to tell me you can't get organized at the goal line? This is a problem. There is a communication issue between our coordinator, the linebackers, the safeties, and everybody else that he's trying to trot out there to get them organized. I'm starting to get a feeling, okay? These are all the symptoms of a guy who's very green and who is still trying to feel out his roster and still trying to find his way. You know, Ryan Nielsen didn't get brought in here for nothing. Everyone goes, oh, no, he was brought in here as like a quality control assistant, a defensive line assistant, and all these things. Do you think maybe he's just kind of supposed to be here, kind of like the short guy from Game of Thrones, just to whisper in his ear and go, listen, I'm not the king, but if I was, these were decisions I would make. Bobby Babbage. Bobby Babbage. I would let Deion Walker get more snaps than TJ Sanders. This is Ryan Nielsen just whispering in the ear, hey, I know it's not good, but I would keep playing Joey Bosa right now because if you rotate the way you did last year, it'll blow up in your face. I don't know, but I have to feel like Ryan Nielsen's presence here in the organization speaks to the fact that there's a recognition Bobby Babbage is green. And
Steve Noble had a comment earlier. It's at the top there. To me, this defense has become Ryan Nielsen's. It's not McDermott's or Babbage's.
I'll talk about that in a second. Another thing that speaks to the feeling out process that's currently taking place on defense is that when you look at what happened with Dorian Strong this weekend, Dorian Strong and Trey White platooned in at quarterback. A lot of people, if you're at the game, you don't even realize it happened, but they took Trey White out of the game for snaps and put in Dorian Strong just because. They were like, hey, let's see what happens. And you know what they found out? He's a really willing tackler, and it turns out he's really good at it. He, as a cornerback, is giving you some flashes of what Rasul Douglas was giving you in terms of run defense, willingness to trigger downhill. And they were letting him go out there and try things out. When's the last time, Chris, you heard of a team that just randomly pulls its de facto cornerback 2 off the field?
Never.
Never. These aren't things that happen. It happens in training camp. It happens in the preseason. It sure as hell doesn't happen in week 4. In a game where you're like, oh man, this underdog is really giving us hell. You know what we should do? We should put a rookie on the field. That'll help. You look at some of the symptoms of this feeling out process. Players who are not known for missing tackles or lacking execution, like Terrell Bernard, are now leading the team in missed tackles, like Terrell Bernard did this week. Players with known limitations, like the aforementioned Dorian Williams, are being put in positions where their lack of abilities manifest as their abilities and their skill set manifest themselves as liabilities. You're watching a guy who's trying to figure out what the hell he has on hand. And that's fine, Chris.
Well, Partham wants to know if, we got no Ogunjobi Hoyt due to suspension, Oliver Milano. Is that factoring in?
I'm sure, but guess what? This is the NFL. I don't have to accept that. I do not, as a fan, and I mean, it doesn't really matter what I think, but even as a coach and as a GM, I don't have to accept that.
You have a microphone.
That's right. I'm a fan with a microphone, so you all have to shut up and listen. I am the man with the microphone, so you will listen to me talk. What movie was that? You are going to listen to everything I have to say. Bills fans regularly talk, and this is where I get mad when people defend it and they go, well, it's not Babbage's fault. What is
Well, I have a microphone, and you don't.
So you will listen to every damn word I have to say.
Yes, I am the wedding singer of Bill's podcasts. Next thing you know, I'm going to be up here. If we lose to the Patriots, I'm going to be behind you just screaming, kill me. Oh, God. I'm going to bring the acoustic guitar and I'll play it for you guys. The other aspect of Bobby Babich that frustrated me this weekend was that I get these fans who talk about how important and how impactful Aaron Cromer's been. Chris, true or false, Aaron Cromer is probably responsible for one of the biggest turnarounds of a unit in Bills history.
Yes.
The Bills' offensive line the one that we took to the AFC Championship game in 2020 was terrible. We were getting there just because of the volume of points we could score in a single game. Cromer, since joining this organization, has turned our offensive line not even into a strength between the starters. He's starting to build a pipeline because now we've got backups in Ryan Vandermark who come in and at least they maul in the rushing attack. You've got Alec Anderson who can come in and just roughhouse people. I love that term, roughhousing.
Jackson Hawes
is coming out, throwing guys around, and he's working with Aaron Cromer. And Aaron Cromer's like, wow, I love this guy's chops. I wish he was 80 pounds heavier so I could put him on the offensive line. It's his coaching, it's his technical instruction, and his weekly motivation that's driven the growth of our offensive line. Why would that be any different from any other coach on this staff? So why should Babich get a pass for all of this gross failure of his unit when Aaron Cromer gets applauded for his successes? Are we being disingenuous, Chris, when we do stuff like that?
Maybe.
Feels like a double standard to me. Oh, Cromer can get all the flowers because his unit's flourishing, but Bobby Babich can't get criticized because his unit's suffering. And then if you try to say that he's young and he's inexperienced, okay, whose fault is that? And when does that experiment run out of road then? Because this is a team that could win a Super Bowl this year. How much longer are you going to let it be put at risk and potentially have that derailed because your defensive coordinator is just too green? Who picks the defensive coordinator?
McDermott.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you what, McDermott's going to have to answer that because, Chris, this week's Zero of the Week, it's Bobby Babich.
I'm on the wrong page because I played that sound.
Of course you are.
You folks fell on your face. You get an F- in my book.
Now, I will say this. I went back and I listened to Bobby Babich's Monday morning press conference because I wanted to hear what he was going to say. I wanted to hear how he answered for just these absurdities that we're watching play out in front of us. And he did have some things that I found really interesting. And in fact, I made a note in my phone after listening to the kind of one of the most interesting ones. First of all, he did make a comment, right? He made a comment because, Chris, remember how you were saying this is McDermott's defense? Mm-hmm. And then you're like, oh, well, now it's Nielsen's defense. Babich's
that was Steve Noble.
Okay, so Steve, for all of you listening to the comments, for those of you who didn't listen to the press conference, this is what Bobby Babich had to say for himself on Monday. He was directly asked by Matt Perino of NewYorkUpstate.com as to whether or not he would call this defense his. And I feel like that's a question you ask when you're a journalist because you're trying to, like, I have a narrative and I'm hoping you give me what I'm looking for so I can write an article about it. And instead, what he said was, no, because if I call it mine, then it takes away from the work everybody else who put time and energy into it. It would take away from them. My quality control coordinators, my position coaches. If I call this defense mine, if I called it McDermott's, if I called it whatever, it would take away from them and their input and their drive. But then 30 seconds later, he goes, well, it's always going to be Sean's defense. He has final say on everything. He goes, but I'll tell you what, the way he put a bow on everything, and I couldn't have loved the response more. He said, when the defense is really good and it wins us football games like it did a week or so ago, it's everybody's defense. When it goes poorly and it costs us, it's my defense. There's a part of me that it's like, okay, I want to be pissed at Bobby Babich, but he sees it. He understands what's at stake here. He knows that his unit is one of the biggest failures of this team so far this season, and that there's so many of these games that could have and probably should have been closed out much better than they have been. Okay? It's a young season. That's the silver lining. He's got time. And he even admitted, okay? He made a note that tackling from deeper zones. He even got into some of the schematic things that are wrong with their defense right now. And for those of you in the comments who have asked, like, well, how much did the missing Milano impact this? He made a point that one of the things that he's seen as an example of how they're not schematically on the same page. He made a note that tackling from depth was something that the Buffalo Bills have always excelled at. And you can think back, Chris, it's the thing that makes Matt Milano special. He can play pre-snap in a deep zone. And depending on the formation, he can stay there, depending on post-snap what happens. But he can also trigger and come downhill and fill the right gap most of the time. It's what makes him so dangerous. And so with that in mind, they've been plugging guys like Dorian Williams into the Matt Milano role. Should you be shocked that it's not going well?
No.
He's admitting that I'm trying to run the same defense I was running when I had stars, and the same defense that I thought I saw on tape that Leslie Frazier was running with a little more aggressiveness, and it's not working right now because I'm missing a whole bunch of these things. And these things that we have always as a Bills team, whether it was Poyer dropping down into the box and filling the run really well. Who's the safety now who's going to do that for us? I don't think they've identified one. You think about who else is platooning around at linebacker. Joe Andreessen got snaps this week. It's not good. They're spinning the wheel trying to figure it out right now. As far as
you got to at least shout out as much shit as the team has given him throughout the training camp in the media. Cole Bishop, first pick
of the year.
Got to give it to him.
I'm not going to take that away from him. In fact, I almost made him the hero of the game because that was a huge momentum swinger. We'll talk about that in a second. But Bobby Babich did have the wherewithal to point out, like, guys, schematically, I'm still trying to feel this out, which gives me hope. Hope that as he gets more talent back, but also he becomes more familiar with, hey, Dorian Williams really can't do that.
Dorian Williams couldn't hold Shaq's jock.
That this will improve. Because it has no choice but to. Guys, I guess if there's a silver lining, it can only get better from here, right? And there's also signs that not just Babich, but the staff as a whole, all the coaches that I just kind of, Brady, I just gave him an ear beating. They're still working on things, trying to feel it out with their talent. Look at Curtis Samuel. Curtis Samuel was active this week for the first time all season. Saw 20 snaps. He actually outsnapped Elijah Moore, who we've watched be regularly utilized in the offensive attack. He's got a touchdown, and he's made some really big first downs. This game, they came in and said, hey, we're going to give Curtis Samuel some burn. We're going to see what it looks like. On one of his 2 targets, he only saw 2 targets for the entire game, but Curtis Samuel did exactly the thing that he was signed to do as a free agent, where he ran it like a point guard in basketball. He came out into the open field. It was man coverage. In fact, no, I think that play was zone. And he just cuts. And he cuts so quickly that the guy, his zone defender, can't get the ankle on him. He catches a short pass, takes up the sideline, 9 yards and a first down. That's what we needed out of Curtis Samuel since the day we signed him. He's showing it. Now, I don't know if that's because he's been benched and he's trying to, hey, I show that he deserves a role. I'm hoping so. I'm hoping that Elijah Moore and Curtis Samuel are kind of that iron sharpens iron at the bottom of the wide receiver depth chart all season. I would alternate who we have active depending on the type of game that you expect on having to play. But you saw it work. It was an experimentation, but it worked. And then Ryan Vandermark, without Grable out, still showed that in the run game, he's wildly effective. Dorian Strong getting 22% of the snaps, showing really well against the run. Just, it's these things. Bosa, while still playing too many snaps, what didn't get talked about by anybody in the podcast community this week was that Epinesa finally got put back in the role that he deserves, which is that second, third down defender. And guess what, Chris? Excelled. He was visibly notable. Finishes with 2 solo run stops, 3 pressures, 1 sack. AJ Epinesa actually made a difference in this game because he was allowed to play the role that he should have been playing for the last 3 weeks. there is a feeling out process. All the signs are there. And I'm hoping that that we'll be able to laugh about this 2 months from now. Kind of how the New England Patriots used to come out and lose to people in the first 2 weeks, and people would go, oh, they're done. Me, my dumbass, calling the local radio station, screaming about how the Patriots are finished after they lose huge in Kansas City. And then just come out with a shovel and start wearing out everybody on their schedule. I'm hoping that I can look back on this stretch of football the Bills have played as that same type of feeling out process. And I hope that we as fans can all learn to take a deep breath and understand that and respect it. And I just have to hope that Bobby Babich can continue to move away from the Dave Wanstead trajectory because that's a dark period of Bills history that I don't want to go back to, and move towards the Leslie Frazier era of Bills football, where we still had the same lack of premium defensive talent. We just did it so schematically sound that nobody could beat us in that regard, at least until the playoffs rolled around. Chris, hero of the game, plain and simple, it's James Cook.
Don't take it personally, all right? Franchise star players are a lot like Highlanders. There can only be one.
8 touchdowns, 8 consecutive games. He's the most productive offensive weapon we have. It's hard not to just love a guy like that. It's hard not to look at this and go, hey, for all the people who maligned the fact that we shouldn't pay a running back, you never pay running backs. How many of you, raise your hand, myself included, don't ever pay a running back? How many of us are eating our crow right now today?
Somebody said that earlier.
Don't be scared. Raise your hand. It's okay to be wrong. It's part of the human condition. Right? Like, we're emotional creatures. It's okay to be incorrect about things and acknowledge that you've been incorrect. So right now, show of hands in the chat, put the hands up emoji. How many of you naysayed the idea of signing James Cook to a lucrative contract extension, who are really happy that that guy's here? Almost like Billy Madison, where he's like, geez, I'm really happy I called that guy.
Jeremy Rogers brought it up in the show earlier. I remember a time when people were trying to rationalize the loss of James Cook, saying he wasn't worth the money he wanted. Those people are now like the ones who didn't want Allen. I never said that.
I never said that. Guys, James Cook is pacing this offense, and he's not doing anything special. When you watch all these, everyone loves Cam Scatabo right now. He's got the media lit on fire. Why? Because he's a vibrant personality.
He's the new Tommy DeVito.
And he's yelling and he's loud and he plays like this really physical, showy brand of football. Great. Wonderful. Everybody loves Amari in Hampton because he's visible and he's getting a ton of touches. And he's doing. Do you know that James Cook is a more efficient running back than Amari Hampton? So everyone's like, we could have drafted a rookie and done. No, that's not the answer. You look at this from a Bills perspective and you say, we have what we know works, and we have a guy who understands the way our line blocks. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. And the Bills did that. And right now we have 4 wins to show for it. We have 4 consecutive victories where our defense was not good. Our offense can't pass the ball down the field. Chris, who else do you have to thank for that besides Josh Allen being special and then what? A really talented blocking scheme and running back, right?
Aaron Cromer.
Yeah, we could. And I almost gave this award, and got to give him an honorable mention to Cole Bishop. Cole Bishop's instincts to make the play that he made, he doesn't make that play as a rookie. I know because I still remember him getting beat like a drum where he gets left naked in coverage against Nico Collins. And it's like, oh my God, this is going to end in disaster. And it did, predictably. That same safety now in his sophomore year understands, like you can see it in real time. That interception, maybe Spencer Rattler doesn't catch the ball. Maybe it still doesn't end up as a touchdown. But that interception, to have the instincts to one-handed get underneath it like that, means he understood the trajectory of the football, the loft they were going to put on it. It was just right time, right place, but you don't get to the right place unless you've developed your instincts. That alone gives me hope that we haven't seen the best of Cole Bishop yet. The entire defense kind of depends on it because right now at the back end, we have no one who's playing well.
Yeah.
my final thoughts as we kind of get up for this. I know that, I've been doing a lot of listening to Tom Curran over the last few weeks, knowing that we were going to have to prep for a podcast where we talked about the New England Patriots, and I wasn't going to have a Patriots guest because I love our friend Chris Simonelli. I just waited too long, Christian Simonelli, to get a hold of him, and I knew it was going to happen.
He's a family man now. You don't want to bother him that much.
And he spent a lot of time talking about what the Patriots could be if they continue to show growth, right? This idea that if they grow, we could be looking at a really good playoff team. Meanwhile, we here as fans are apoplectic. We're beside ourselves with this idea that whatever we are right now is exactly who we're going to be. And this is the reason we're not going to win a Super Bowl. I've seen 8 different people in the comments of tonight's show echoing that sentiment right there. All of the things that Drew just said are the reasons that the Bills will not win a Super Bowl. And I understand that. Between the Dave Wannstedt trajectory of our defensive coordinating stats, the communication issues, the poor execution, the tackling, whatever. You're acting like these are just set in stone pieces of our DNA. But if we know anything about the NFL, it's never that simple. Okay. This is from the weekly Pick 6 column over at The Athletic. I read everything about the NFL because I'm petty and I want ammunition to make fun of people I don't like. He talked about the Ravens defense and how they were reeling and the sky's falling and they ranked 30th in EPA per play, which is their worst since 2019 on defense. But he also pointed out something interesting that I think can also correlate to what the Bills are doing right now. In the last 3 seasons, particularly over the early weeks of the schedule, they managed to fix slow starts. The Baltimore Ravens did. In 2022, the Ravens weeks 1 through 8 were 27th in EPA per play on defense. Weeks 9 through the playoffs, they were 4th in the NFL. In 2023, weeks 1 through 8, they started 2nd and they stayed there and they essentially ended up 5th. In 2024, the Baltimore Ravens, weeks 1 through 8, with a new defensive coordinator who is inexperienced, right? Because they have the same thing we're going through, where they brought back Zach Orr, who's a former linebacker for that team, to call their defense. Weeks 1 through 8, they were 26th in the NFL in EPA per play. Weeks 9 on, they were 2nd best in the NFL. There is empirical evidence that says you can fix this. Not just fix it, but fix it in some of that's your schedule. Some of that's the attrition of an NFL season. But some of it's also just the feeling out process that new coordinators have to do with the new roster every year. And it doesn't always materialize right away. And in that way, if the Ravens can do it, Chris, I think we've been just as successful overall as the Ravens, haven't we?
Yes.
Okay. A lot of what's going on for the Bills right now is related to coaching. And to see that kind of turnaround, to be the Ravens and try to navigate that would be huge. They're in trouble. We don't have any of that. We just have to go over this season and try to get right. Try to figure out the right way to play the right players. And then we also have our own history that we can look back at and say things can dramatically improve. Because are we or are we not the same fans that watched our team complete 9 passes against the Houston Texans in week 5 of an NFL season last year?
I don't want to remember that game.
And then go on to have a pair of 340-yard passing games in week 14 and 15 against playoff NFC teams. This is the thing that you can do in the NFL. It's never too late. It's never too late to turn it around. It's never too late to hit your stride, to figure out how to use what you have in front of you. So, it feels like the sky is falling, right? There's a lot in that regard that's broken. Things that are in the air. Your safety play is a weakness of the team. Defensive line hasn't been impactful in 3 of the 4 games, despite all the investments. Defensive backs like Trey White and Teron Johnson are showing you their age, and linebackers we thought we could trust are leading the team in missed tackles like Terrell Bernard. And they're fueling that worst in the NFL tackle rate. But some of that requires perspective. Okay? We're still 4-0. They're winning in spite of it. While other teams in the AFC out there, and this is what I also got from a week away from football. You look around the AFC, and I talked earlier in the top of the show about seeing the forest for the trees, but also getting caught up in the trees for the forest. Chris, right now, I think a lot of us as fans are getting caught up in the trees for the forest. Because when you look around, look at this, Chris, the Chiefs, right? Like the AFC, like the Chiefs are back, allegedly. But their schedule is incredibly difficult. We'll see what they actually have in the tank. This Monday, they got to go play the Jaguars. And then they have a very difficult slate of games, and then they have to come to Buffalo. It's not going to be easy for them to maintain any kind of momentum. And then you've got the AFC North. Chris, show this is the best graphic I've seen to describe what's going on in the AFC North right now. It's Spoonie from Toy Story. I love it. You think about this. The Bengals, how many more times am I going to have to hear from Bengals fans about how great their team actually is? Like, oh man, no, we're contenders. If this happened and if that happened and if our front office actually.
If our owner wasn't poor.
They are the if team. And I love the Browns getting to hug them and be like, look, guys, you're garbage just like us. The Bengals were supposed to be a team that really turned it around because their quarterback was NFL Comeback Player of the Year. The Ravens were viewed as our rivals for the AFC title game. And that's why our week 1 victory was supposed to be so special. But right now, if you look at what's going on with the Ravens, like I want to look at this for you. I'm going to run this down because somebody put out the tweet where it's, oh my God, give me my bookmarks. Okay, so to recap the last week for Ravens fans, their fans got called spoiled by the coaching staff and players. Then Travis Jones, Van Noy, and Ricard all are still out of the lineup. 3 of their most veteran, tenured, impactful players. Nande Bidabike gets put on IR. He's done for the season. Washington he goes out for 4 weeks. Jair Alexander still getting in football shape. Keaton Mitchell still a healthy scratch. Lamar, Roquan, Stanley, Marlin, and Wiggins all get hurt against the Chiefs. The Ravens get blown out and dropped to 1-3. Article comes out about players avoiding the media. Harbaugh announces Metabike is out for the season but can't comment on it. Harbaugh blasts his offensive coordinator. Harbaugh mentions defense isn't far off, quote unquote. Roquan and Marlin announced to miss multiple weeks. Wiggins and Stanley unsure to the extent of their injury, could be months. Lamar now announced to miss possibly 2 to 3 weeks. Is anybody else in hell more so than Baltimore Ravens fans? Chris, I don't think anybody has it worse than them right now.
No. They might. The Ravens. They might be this year's Bengals through injury and bad games. They might trip their way to being like 500 to the end of the season, where you got to have a win the last week to get in, because the Ravens are in injury hell right now. They might miss the playoffs. If Lamar's going to be out 3 weeks, they might miss the playoffs.
They are the NFL's Donner Party right now. Like, it's the Oregon Trail, and everyone has dysentery, and half their team died trying to ford the river. I'm looking at the comments over here, and all I know is that Time just put in the comments, it's time to punch down on Reek. It couldn't have happened to a nicer person. I'll get to that in a second. Then you look around the league's other contenders, quote unquote. The Chargers are starting to absorb some really significant injuries.
Slater and Alt.
So their starting tackles are gone from the lineup for a significant amount of time. And while it's not a Ravens-esque like lineup clean out, it's still not ideal. And they showed this past week that they're human. They can lose. They can make poor decisions in a football game, and they can look pedestrian for stretches of it. Meanwhile, the Broncos defense is struggling unless they play Cincinnati. I mean, that sack, you want to talk about how bad Cincinnati is, guys? I can sum it up in one play. There's a play last night where the Cincinnati Bengals kept 5 guys back in protection. Okay. There's a guy, he comes back, they keep 5 back in protection to try to protect, what's his stupid face? Who's playing quarterback for him?
Jake Browning?
Jake Browning's back there. They have four linemen and a running back three interior offensive linemen and a running back who all stay in to pass protect. The Broncos only rush 3. They have one defensive tackle and the 2 defensive ends, Benito and Connor. 4 players all converge on the one defensive tackle, including the running back. Meanwhile, both tackles get beat right off the snap. Both tackles get beat. And in under 2.5 seconds, those defensive ends met at the quarterback for a joint sack. In under 2.5 seconds when you left extra guys into pass protect. It's one of the most embarrassing displays of football ever. That's a team that was supposed to be competing with the Buffalo Bills. And now they're dying. They're dying a slow death, and their fans have to watch it. None of the AFC South teams have their shit together. None of the AFC East teams have their shit together. The Patriots that we're about to play are the closest thing to it. And do we trust that? Are they good? The reality of things is the Bills are imperfect. No, we haven't done a good job. We as a team are doing a poor job coordinating. We're doing a poor job of organizing our defense. Our defenders are not executing when they're put in position to do so. Do you know what's come out of that, Chris? On offense, do you want to see the statistics that balance out those poor defensive statistics?
Mm-mm.
In points, they're first in the NFL. EPA per play, they're first in the NFL. Throwing EPA, they're 5th in the NFL. Rushing EPA, they're 3rd in the NFL. Pass success percentage, they are 6th in the NFL. Rush success percentage, they're 2nd in the NFL. Touchdown to drive percentage, they are number 1 in the entire league. 20-plus yard play percentage. Because you go, you can't have an explosive offense if all you're doing, if you're not throwing the ball down the field. Do you know we're 6th in the NFL right now? 3rd and out percentage, and this is the best one. Percentage of plays that end up with you going 3 and out. Do you know who's it out? We are 3rd. The Colts are 1st. The Rams are 2nd. We're 3rd. Do you know who's last?
No.
The other undefeated team in football, the Eagles. So maybe none of this matters. But here's something else for you. We sit here because we're so close in terms of proximity to the problem and the thing that's driving us crazy. We hand wring and we agonize and we scream and we thrash about all the small things that we think are wrong. Do you want to see, Chris, some betting odds for you from Vegas today?
Okay.
Right now, the Bills to make the playoffs are minus 20,000. You're going to put up $20,000 against the Buffalo Bills making the 2025 NFL playoffs. To win the division, they're minus 16 grand. To win the 1 seed, do you know what they are? Minus 225. Do you know who's next in the AFC?
Chiefs.
The Chargers at plus 550.
Not a chance.
We're minus 225 for the 1 seed as of today, right now. To have over 13.5 wins, it's minus 135. To be the AFC champions, we're plus 180. Do you know who the next closest team is?
Chargers.
Kansas City at plus 475. To be the Super Bowl champs, we're plus 380. Do you know who's next?
No.
Philadelphia at plus 700. We as fans are we are too busy seeing the trees for the forest right now. Yes, there's a lot that's wrong. And there are things that are unsustainable. Also, history's proven you can fix it. And also, people who have no emotion tied to this, people who literally only watch our team so that they can make money off of it, are telling the world right now via Vegas sportsbooks that the Buffalo Bills are one of the safest bets in the entire universe. Somewhere in the middle of that is the truth. And over the next month of football, we're really going to find out what that is. I can't wait to see it. I guess, Chris, sometimes we really do have to just take a step back, take a deep breath, and relax. And the funny thing is that's coming from a guy who has a drink in each hand right now.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm the one telling you all to take a deep breath and relax.
We're way over time. You know what we're cutting into. I'll tell.
He goes, we're over time.
Yeah. As we wrap this, I mean, we've stayed consistent. A lot of viewers tonight. Greg and Aaron are currently live, so go check out their show and tell them that sorry we're late. We were getting drunk with Drew and Chris.
Guys, I love you. You guys show up each and every week. We have a blast here, I think. Hopefully you enjoyed it too. For those of you in the chat, I enjoy Super Mexican. Maybe none of this matters. He says an hour and 22 minutes into this thing. Exactly. It's a Quentin Tarantino film where you go, we start at the beginning, we come around to the end, then you go, wait a minute. He really is just a moron staring into his glove box at Nichols going, maybe this doesn't matter. That's right. And now you understand the beauty of the Rockpile Report. I love it. You guys love it. Otherwise, you wouldn't show up every week. But for tonight, we got to get the hell out of here. I'm Drew Gear. That's Chris Kruger. And this has been your Rockpile Report.